I have a question that needs to be answered. Ready? Is this the golden age? And you're like, Bill, shut up. It's not the golden age. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. We should talk about all these things that are happening where the world is moving from it's the Magnificent Seven and NVIDIA only to an economy that grows, to small cap stocks that rally, to altcoins where people buy the dip. Perhaps the best example is SUI. Don't let me forget to show that chart. But is the golden age where someone other than NVIDIA holders win percolating under the surface? Are little coins leading crypto, or could they? Are little stocks leading the equity market, or at least holding it up? I think so. Now, that said, we do have some cautionary signs in stocks. Bitcoin is not rallying. There's two sides to the story. But as somebody said in the comments, dash to $400. Crypto loves to do these like one coin market jobs, let's say. Everybody got long Zcash, and then Dash took off in a classic contrarian move. Altcoins in general are okay. They're not terrible. It's certainly not like last year where it's down only. So I think there's reason to think that a shift is occurring. Now, I think when you start with a shift, you want to look at, the greed in stocks. So here's your golden age, right? It's funny. The greed index is very high, yet every large investor that I know is calling for a top, a crash, a nightmare, a disaster. Now, of course, when things get overextended, that's when you might expect a down move, just like when fear greed was back here at 0. Okay, but I don't know that fear greed at 61 is by any stretch extreme. Matter of fact, I think when it comes to equities, the thing you want to be focused on is that small cap stocks, right? Economically sensitive stocks, that have just been the redheaded stepchild for so long, actually made really robust new highs, and they're on their way to a really good January. And one has to wonder, when you look at small cap stocks, you're like, well, what impact does that have on crypto? And I think, I think one of the best things that you can do is compare small cap stocks to crypto or to altcoins. Here we go. So the candle graph is small cap stocks, IWM, and this blue line is total free. That's crypto market cap without Bitcoin and Ethereum. So one has to, say to yourself, it's like, hey, is there something to this? Like we have this big report in Patreon Platinum about how, all valuation metrics in the world is changing, and this whole list of altcoins with this, rally in crypto can sort of take hold and spread out, along with the privacy coin primer that's in both Patreon tiers. I mean, God. How does crypto not catch up? What's your alternative? Low growth, high inflation? I'm pretty sure the data shows exactly the opposite. Matter of fact, I saw the price of eggs today look like an altcoin and crash and go to 0. All the things that everybody was negative about, and a lot of people were still afraid of inflation, and that's not happening. I don't think that's happening anymore. I think that's a dead issue. Larry Fink told you that yesterday, that AI is deflationary because of what goes on in the labor market. It's deflationary. So everyone's worried about low growth and inflation, and instead they're getting high growth and stable inflation. Now, what does that mean? Well, I don't know. That means crypto can go higher. Now, what is another indicator that crypto can go higher? So the guy that wrote the tweet did not appreciate my conclusion. Okay. But today there was something about a New York Times article fudding Michael Saylor with quotes out of context because, you know, the New York Times, you know, clearly financial market experts. All right. Now, convenient that we have like Michael Saylor FUD and we have things about like, you know, Van X holdings of MicroStrategy. Very conveniently placed article given the, you know, the Clarity Act and all the, oh my God, it's going to affect banks or no DeFi. It's also funny how Democrats turned around and flipped and was like, oh, no. We're just kidding, crypto bros. Well, just kidding. We'll fix it. But as I said yesterday ad nauseum, Wall Street is afraid of crypto and they should be. Like, really, what upside have you got in the Magnificent Seven or what I would call the spenders? In other words, they're going to spend indiscriminately on data centers. They have to because, you know, they've got the software, but they don't have the hardware. But that money that they spend, you know, they're not going to get it back next quarter. They may not get it back next year. So it's like sell the spenders and buy the guys that are, you know, prospering from a better economy. That's altcoins. And if you follow guys like Raoul Paul, you haven't heard one word on crypto Twitter about this, but normally when things like small cap stocks and economic indexes, when they do better, that's historically been very healthy for crypto, right? Crypto, like any other asset class, what do they like? Stable capital markets, stable rates or lower rates, no tightening, no freaking out, no anything. And you look at crypto and you look at things like maybe SUI. That just happens to be an example where, you know, SUI went straight down today and came straight back. And interestingly, it was the 50-day moving average. Now, is this like, oh my God, you know, is this the buy signal for the ages? I don't know, but I do know that when this thing wicked down at a 50-day moving average today, trying to keep this in the middle for all our people watching on TikTok and elsewhere, you know, kind of interesting that they were really interested in SUI today on the 50-day moving average right here. Right. That's at $1.71. And of course, just as a reminder, you know, SUI has done nothing but go down, and this stablecoin trade, not a word about it. One of the reasons, other than getting the crypto bro vote, why Democrats may be turning themselves around is they're not going to get any of the social programs. They're not going to get any of the spending that they're going to want when they take over Congress. They're not going to get anything without stablecoins. They got to finance, and even if that's not an ideological angle, stablecoins have to go to 4 trillion market cap. And I don't see why everybody is selling layer ones, is down on altcoins, doesn't want to talk about XRP or any of the other cryptos when these things have to happen. They have to happen. So let's go through the list. Wall Street is afraid of crypto and showing weakness, right? Anybody who's going to tell me the New York Times has an original idea of picking on Michael Saylor, you're out of your mind. Privacy coins are indiscriminately mooning, as in the free market is telling, you know, legacy and sovereigns what they can go do with themselves. For real. In other words, the cyberpunk aspect of crypto is picking up. And I like this so much better than waiting for the government to moon our bags. So much better, right? Bitcoin, you know, it's not great when Bitcoin just sits around like this, but at least it has kind of an upward higher low trajectory. It's not spectacular, but it doesn't have to be for gradually then suddenly, right? It feels like the whole market is sleeping. Now, normally in legacy, these type of formations are bearish. In crypto, really, when it consolidates in this upward band, a lot of times it breaks out at the top of the band, noting that the top of the band is at 98, and at the end of the month, it'll be close to 100. In other words, I think what's going on is everybody is afraid of February in one form or another. You have Magnificent Seven earnings, you have a Fed meeting, and you have an eclipse all at the same time. And yeah, Magnificent Seven earnings all at once. So that would scare that could scare people. You know, there is a reason why silver is up only, other than the fact that, you know, it's an industrial metal buying panic, right? They keep trying to hold silver down, and it's not going to stay down in the United States or in the Western world when it's already trading over 100 in Asia. And as I've said, and I have no problem saying it on an ongoing basis, silver is a trust issue, period. Trust exchanges, trust counterparties, trust central banks. Silver is thumbs down on all of it. And that point is not being made. People say, well, there's fear in the system, and I've been telling you because of Fox News commercials to buy silver and put it in your backyard. Yeah, that's all good. But when you have it exploding the way it's exploding, you know, particularly with geopolitical tensions and the circus at the Fed, it's a trust issue. And there is no better trust trade than Bitcoin. So you got two things going for you. You got small cap stocks and small cap cryptos trading decent. Like I saw PAL. We were talking about PAL in the YouTube member area 3 days ago. I saw it up 20% today. Right. So, I mean, you know, the whole thing doesn't have a bid, but there is a bid. Okay. Andrew is a new viewer to this channel. Welcome, sir. We appreciate you joining us. T-Bone, some of the regulars are here. Hedera, let's look at it. You know, this market is requiring what no one has, and everyone's out of it. It's called patience. Everyone's out of patience. Everyone's out of patience. And I get that. But what I keep seeing is, like, you know, for example, when you look at Hedera, and you know, this is what you get when you get, you know, late stage downtrends, right? You know, you have these failures at the 50-day moving average in Hedera, right? So failure, huge wick down, failure, drop, failure, you know, huge move down. And then wait a minute, you know, when they're failing over here, you're not getting the drops, obviously. It's, you know, the downside, they're out of gas on the downside. This thing was at 28 cents in July. Can someone tell me why it lost half of its value? Why would an ISO 20022 coin that the banking system is going to need to use, why would that all of a sudden just vaporize like that? Well, because crypto is BS and no one needs crypto and everything in legacy is fine. And, you know, okay, all right. Then why is the New York Times fudding Michael Saylor? Why are senators crying about DeFi and all these other things? Why is that happening? You know, instead of me doing like a, well, you know, they're scared of crypto rant, do it the other way. Go, you know, the New York Times woke up today and goes, oh yeah, you know, hot news, hot take. Michael Saylor, MicroStrategy in trouble. Let me tell you something. Michael Saylor looks at this thing, his view of the world, in case you don't know, just in case you don't know, his view of the world is that Bitcoin is going to suck all of the capital out of legacy eventually. And I'll tell you what, if I was a Wall Street banker and that idea even existed, I'd be like, oh, that is so scary. That is the funny thing about crypto, that no one wants to talk about what the future looks like because it's scary. And the great news about silver is it's actually making you look at it. It's making you look at the scary future. Of course, it's not scary if you're involved in crypto and you can manage to hang in. The last thing I would want, and this is why we're publishing to our customers on privacy. I mean, we got this thing that we just put in Patreon Platinum. I mean, our audience is going to be chewing on that for a week and a half. That is huge, huge, gigantic report about, hey, the nature of valuation, the nature, as one thought leader said, the nature of all business and capitalism has changed. So if that's true, how do you want to invest in crypto? Oh, by the way, these guys much watch the show. We were talking about Bitcoin miners benefiting from this AI data center thing, the computing power. Riot Platforms goes up 12% after signing a $1 billion data deal with Advanced Micro Devices. What do you know? Riot Blockchain, which is kind of they were kind of a famous, I don't know, dog, if you will. And a lot of these Bitcoin mining stocks, this is of course, this is WAGMI. That's what I call it, the Bitcoin miner ETF. And a lot of these guys are, they're involved in AI, so the valuations are good. And this did better than Bitcoin last year, but see how perky this is? Is it me? Or is this very perky? And mind you, when Bitcoin miners get deals for AI, they get money from somewhere else. They don't have to sell Bitcoin to finance their operations. I've been saying this for a week, and bada bing, bada boom, someone does a deal. What? That's the only deal out there? When, like Meta is building a data center in Louisiana that is bigger than the island of Manhattan. Why do you think Render went up 80% at the start of this year? I mean, it used to be kind of hard to pound the table on these trades. And now the only difficulty in pounding the table on these trades is the fact that, the market is like watching grass grow. But if the market is like watching grass grow, well, that can be a good thing if you're entering. It's probably not fun if you're waiting, but if you're entering, or you want to enter, or you want to live in a world that's not like last year. I mean, boring is better than down only, because one day boring changes. And, there's another funny, just on a separate subject. I used to say that, what the orange man wants, the orange man gets. Now, I don't know if the Bitcoin Strategic Reserve and American-made cryptos is going to wind up a part of that. I kind of hope it does. But one thing that I was sort of amused to see is that the president of Venezuela, who got the Nobel Peace Prize, or excuse me, the opposition leader in Venezuela, who got the Nobel Peace Prize, got on a plane, came to Washington, presented the Nobel Peace Prize to the orange man. He accepted it, and she left with like an orange man merch swag bag. What the guy wants, the guy gets. Don't forget, he's long crypto, and so are his kids. His kids are in Bitcoin mining. What is it that they know? Again, it's a question you have to ask yourself when everything is just sort of sitting there, not doing anything. But the altcoins underneath the surface, they're starting to get perky even now in Asia time, right? Like one of the layer ones that we've been talking about for a while in the YouTube member area as something machines are going to want to use. Another undiscussed topic. Near TIA, Caspa. TIA's up 3% after hours today. So just because it's not like indiscriminately mooning, there's a perkiness to this thing, and Magnificent Seven earnings are coming out. In other words, you as an equity investor, you have been paid to buy software and Magnificent Seven and never sell. Even when they killed it last year on this whole tariff thing, you just got paid to buy more. Buy more. Now, that's all changing, right? It looks like the Magnificent Seven is turning into Google. Maybe Google and Tesla. Definitely Google, right? I mean, Google-related stocks, according to Zero Hedge, are outperforming OpenAI stocks. Okay. So does that mean for crypto, for at least the AI part of crypto, which we talk about incessantly in the YouTube member area, does that mean that whatever people thought last year about AI is not what they're going to think about this year? This year, software stocks are getting destroyed, according to Zero Hedge. Why? Because all code's going to be free. Knowledge is going to be free. And everybody, what is the software that cannot be replicated by a chatbot? That would be the software used by the Bitcoin network. And frankly, the software used by a lot of crypto platforms. Like, where are AI agents going to trade? You know, when they start putting everything on chain, a lot of these layer ones, they're like at zero. You know, it reminds me of where the Magnificent Seven was, say back in 2011. You know, you could have bought Nvidia in 2014, and I think the upside return was 1,000x in 10 years. Now, I understand crypto people want 1,000x by like 10 p.m. their time or 11 p.m. their time, so that, you know, they can order the Lambo, take a shower, have them pull the Lambo up, and then take the Lambo to the club. You know, so rather than 10 years, how about we do it in 2 hours? I understand that's what everyone wants, but I don't think this is what everyone wants. In other words, all the people who say, well, the 4-year cycle is dead. Okay, the 4-year cycle is dead, but then what do we have? Well, unfortunately, I think we have stock market price action, which involves a lot of waiting, and it involves paying attention to sectors. Like, I think Zcash last year told you that Bitcoin wasn't going back below 80. And once Bitcoin recovered above 80, it wasn't going back down there again, or 85. It wasn't. It wasn't going, excuse me. Zcash told you Bitcoin was not going back to 80. Even though Zcash was rallying while the rest of the market was terrible, Zcash is still private Bitcoin. Dash is perhaps a lower quality version of a transactional Bitcoin. It doesn't matter. I don't care. I don't care if nobody understands Dash or Decred. The first company to come out and do a Dash treasury, you're probably going to see Dash well over 100. And people think it doesn't mean anything, and people thought the same thing about Zcash, and of course, I disagree. I think the cryptocurrency universe spreading itself out is probably one of the most bullish things out there. Again, even though, I mean, Dash is, you know, way below everybody in the trenches, so is Zcash until it 20x'd. Like, if Zcash can do it, Dash can do it, and then eventually, it can be the big boy Bitcoin, and it can also be a lot of these AI coins. You know, in the last YouTube member podcast, we laid out extensively. Like, first, we think it's going to be Bitcoin, and then that's sort of happened already. But then we laid out which coins are going to be next, like what the rotation is, like sector A, sector B, sector C. And frankly, I think, you know, with some of the AI coins getting perky today, that's already happening. And if you have a continuation of, like, say, the Google universe outpacing the OpenAI universe in stocks, and you have Magnificent Seven next week, you got to remember that Bitcoin and Ethereum ETF, they're still out there waiting, right? Bitcoin ETF trading at 51, held 50 like an absolute champ. You get one big or two big disappointments out of the Magnificent Seven in February or late January, you're going to find that capital heading for Bitcoin. That whole where does the money go thing, it's going to Bitcoin, because I can tell you right now, it's not going to bonds, because, I'll spare you the macro geek out. Bonds don't trade that well. Interest rates in the United States are actually rising. I mean, mortgage rates went down, but like the bond market the last week or so, last 2 days, all right, maybe they smell higher gross domestic product. They maybe it's the golden age. Or, of course, maybe it's the golden age and they have to refinance $11 trillion in debt. And I have absolutely no idea how they're going to do that. None. Now, of all the things that you can talk about where, there's like two possible black swans for this year. One of them is a failed government bond auction where they just keep selling the debt and no one takes it one day. Seriously, you don't have, they're not guaranteed a bid for the debt. You can have an auction. That's how they do it, where like no one buys a portion of the bonds. I mean, if that ever happened. And then I saw something, one of the right-wing commentators was talking about, the Russians have come out and said that, things have gotten to a point in Eastern Europe where they're seriously considering using nukes against Europe. Now, undoubtedly, this is like sensationalism, but, there are a lot of forecasts where the GAN and a lot of the astro work talking about very kinetic things happening. You got a couple different ways it can transpire. And I don't think this year is going to be boring by any stretch of the imagination. What I do know is things like silver have pulled you into the decentralized, trustless world. Okay. T-Bone has a big bag of Ondo. It's amazing how the world of tokenized assets, it's all over the news. Yet when you look at the chart of anything, like I realize that everyone would want to see it up and to the right. But once you see it up and to the right, it's not over. It's harder. People think this is hard. This is not hard. This is not hard. This is, 50-day moving average for dummies. Yes, every time they go to the 50-day moving average, it gets rejected. But it's not making a new low. And what happens when they go back up here and they attack this thing again? Do you know what I'm saying? Like, how long can they really hold this down? I'm just asking for a friend. The biggest surprise trade can come off the eclipse. We really haven't talked much about the eclipse. Normally, I'm like way more wound up about these things, but eclipses can create reversals. They can create intense volatility, which we're not seeing, and it can create reversals. Now, don't be surprised if the eclipse propels silver over 100. I would also not be surprised if silver triggers some kind of bottom in the altcoin universe. Right? It's either we're going to have to sit and watch the range, or you can wake up one day and there's an RWA catalyst, an AI catalyst, or a privacy catalyst. Again, privacy market cap is expected to go from 20 to 100 billion this year. How exactly does that happen? Is there just going to be an organic 5x of all privacy coins? Or is Congress or somebody going to say something or do something that's just going to, basically saying that they're not willing to put what Robert Kennedy called transactional freedom at the top of the priority list? And why would they? Why would they? Right? They make money by selling your data, and, surveilling you is a part of what they do. I just got asked by a particular chatbot, do you want to connect, all of your email and everything that you do to this chatbot system to make it better? They're actually trying to get you to give them all of their data, right? Flying Tiger says the eclipse is in Aquarius. Yes, the age of Aquarius, when things become brand new, right? This is supposed to be the age. The last time we saw anything like this from a GAN point of view, it was the American Revolution 250 years ago. There's going to be a revolution. It's going to be a revolution. And I cannot believe that that does not involve the future of money. And of course, yeah, a machine is going to wake up and do something. I mean, that is, I can't, it's so unbelievable how inevitable it is. Yet it feels totally uninteresting to the market, right? Like what has to happen? I don't know. I don't know what has to happen. That's the point, right? If we knew what had to happen, but if you look at Tau, I mean, I guess you could call this the leadership coin in this space. So, I mean, they wicked it down below the 50-day moving average today, and they brought it straight back. So I would guess that in all these coins like SUI and Tau, you know, they know where the 50-day moving average is. And they run the stops and they bring it back. Okay. All right. So we need to ask, we need to ask the director. All right. So I did talk about the director meme coin last night. Again, the director meme coin, just to make you aware. Meme coin itself, the word means gambling and losing money, for your information. However, I have been asked, okay, I'm showing the director Twitter. So, you know, they have 11,021 Twitter followers, and this is the contract address on the Twitter. I don't give out contract addresses to anybody. And if anybody is claiming to be me and giving you a contract address, don't touch it. I never give anybody a contract address. I tell them to go to the Twitter or the website or whatever. I did that with antivirus, and I'm doing it with this coin director. You know, it trades around 3 million. People are so freaking bored that they're willing to look at these things. 1, 2, these guys have taken supply off the market. And 3, the community liked my interpretation of pushing back against manipulation. Matter of fact, I think the catalyst for this coin, to be perfectly honest, is some sort of event where it appears the market is manipulated or the manipulation in silver blows up in their face. I think that's what it takes to get this going. Because I've got this huge term paper about, you know, director versus Pippin versus white whale. I don't think you need it. I just like the idea of trust breaking down, market manipulation getting exposed, or people just getting so tired of market manipulation that you go, you know what? We're pressing the decentralization button. I think that this is the year where we finally do it. And one of the reasons why is because last year they just flat out pushed you out. They made this market uninvestable. They made us all mental. Like, don't tell me you weren't mental at Christmas. Don't tell me like, you know, it was like Happy New Year. Don't even talk to me about it. I don't want to hear it. That was the prevailing attitude in crypto. Okay. You know, John Legend is like, yeah, they can pay me for my data. Yeah, they can. And you will be able to hold on to your data in a decentralized world, or so we hope, right? Flying Tiger, T-Bone reminding you to hit the like button as we stream in a world where it's like, you know, it feels like we're in the information void. There's actually a lot going on, like underneath the hood. It's just that, you know, there's not a lot of price action to get everybody excited in crypto, right? But, you know, just to get this trust issue rammed home. This is the spread between silver traded in Shanghai and silver in the Western world. It's huge. Literally, the Western silver market is broken. That's what silver at 90 means. It's broken. Now, when crypto is going up, if you went, well, you know, a major A major monetary connected market is breaking. What should you do? Well, you would say buy Bitcoin. I mean, I'm also looking at something here. US foreclosures up 14%. The Fed has to react to this. And this goes back to something that I have discussed ad nauseum. You know, all of these things, because of like the AI data center build out, you know, nobody expects any rate cuts until Powell leaves. And if that's true, they will have waited 6 months too long when it's probably already a year and a half overdue. And, you know, remember when I said earlier that, you know, the opposition leader in Venezuela traded the Nobel Peace Prize for a swag bag personally in DC? You know, you don't have to like it, but whatever the orange man wants, the orange man seems to get. Now, it would be helpful if he liked something that helped the people who voted for him. That would be nice. But if he wants rates down, rates are going down. And they're going to push huge amounts of money into the system to try to restart housing. And I know I'm a crypto head, and I know that's all beneficial to me. But you know what? Rates are too high, and the tariffs are a tightening force. So ironically, if the tariffs are considered legal and he can continue to tariff people, which he may do anyway, regardless of what they say, if he continues to tariff people, that's a tightening force. That means tariffs now mean rate cuts later. Dramatically. No one is saying this. No one is talking about like pricing in. Maybe small cap stocks are like, what happens when they get the bazooka out? I think that's why Bitcoin has got that upward sloping grind to it. What is the rationale for Bitcoin to go down in this environment after surviving last year? There's none. There's none. You know, one thing is reporting volatility is dead, meaning there's no fear in stocks. Nothing could be better for crypto, even if we had to live with the volatility, than some kind of realization that stocks are not the way to go over the next 2 years. Oh my God. Oh my God. Right? You know, a lot of contrarian people in stocks want to go the other way. The truth is, what are they going into? They could go into small cap stocks. Okay. But what can they go into that's down? What can they go into that is kind of AI proof or would really benefit from AI? I think the answer is simple. Okay. The S. Jeski, I'll get some of these names right one day. You know, he's like, I need the bazooka. Imagine the price of one Bitcoin at the market cap of silver. Exactly. Bitcoin has to double to get to where silver is on a market cap basis. Let that sink in. The market cap of Bitcoin is only 1.8 trillion. I mean, you know, if you said the market cap of Bitcoin is 1.8 trillion 5 years ago, you would have been like, oh my God, we're in this stratosphere. There's no air up here. Now we're like, oh, wow, it's kind of cheap. That's kind of cheap. Okay, ZBCN is on a rip. Somebody's bringing up lumber. Oh my God. Interesting. You know, there's also another idea that we've talked about. We've talked about the labor market. This is lumber futures with gap and go here. This is why I bring this up. And I don't know what it means for Bitcoin. I think it's still okay. I think it's good. But, you know, the one thing everyone gave up on last year was this whole idea of the golden era. It's a joke now, right? It's a joke if you bring it up because of the labor market. But, you know, when Ronald Reagan was president, like his first year or so in office, it was terrible. It was terrible. Right? He came in and, you know, Paul Volcker, the guy that was running the Fed, raised rates to 20% on a somewhat justified basis. And Ronald Reagan had to make excuses for the economy for like a year and a half. It was just god awful. And then one day you just woke up and S&P was off to the races and never went down, didn't go down for 5 years. I'm wondering if the same thing can happen in a decentralized universe in crypto. If it's 1981 in crypto or 1982, where the things that everything thought were terrible wind up not being terrible. I guess what I'm trying to say is somewhere out there, there's a rotation out of what everyone has been parked in and into a whole new world. Either a world where like other people other than NVIDIA holders benefit from what's going on in the world, okay? Or a just big old FU, and that the decentralized world and altcoins continue to follow small cap stocks. And you got to have the right altcoins, which is what we're constantly publishing on in the YouTube member area. Right. And in Patreon, of course, where we're publishing reports, right? Patreon has reports. It has a new thing where Patreon has a report, right? A slideshow, okay, that's enclosed with the articles and an executive summary that gets right to the point on market direction, forecasts, and coin picks. Let's welcome who's here. Bull Runner in the house. What's going on? Andrew, Alpha Video, Joey, a Spartan Colonel, welcome. Along with Huckleberry Native, Odd Dark, Loco for Crypto, welcome. Roby, a new member, 1:40 a.m. in the UK. Boy, I tell you what, hats off to these guys out of Europe that get up out of bed in the middle of the night to listen to the show. God bless you, man. Right? Mechanical said, Sailor is the punching bag of FUD addicts, which is what I tried to tell this guy who did the tweet. It's like, dude, come on. You know, the New York Times is fudding Michael Saylor, and they got that idea on their own? A bunch of like B+ journalism majors? Come on. Guess who? Chicken Boo, the one-woman hedge fund. What's going on? Right? We have Andrew. We have C. Loss C. Welcome. Rock Lobster in the house. Recognizing these names. Flying Tiger. JK. Welcome to the show. Alpha Video. What's going on? John Legend. Country Club Hillbilly. Classic. Jay Lee. Mark. What's up? Right? John Legend. Shirley Fortress. Right? Listen. If you can get Wong the right altcoins, you've already made money this year. Now, of course, doing so, requires coin picking, which we try and help to the best of our ability. And I think Toby and some of these models that we have that are talking about, like I said, privacy, future of money, AI, this is just getting warmed up. Toby had 2026 as a monster year for privacy last year. And then Zcash took off in everybody's face. So nobody should be surprised about Dash. Nobody should be surprised about any privacy coin. Again, folks, we got the privacy primer in the $25 tiers. Like, you don't know anything about privacy coins, you can join that tier for $25 a month, and it's sitting right there waiting for you. It's sitting right there waiting for you. I got like 800 people in Patreon. It's like, knock, 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 knock. Hey, guys, $25 tier. Take a look. Because when this thing goes, it's going to go and go and go and go. Because you know who's going to want transactional freedom? The orange man. Because when he's done trading the Nobel Peace Prize for swag bag one day, he's going to need to get him, his family, and his fortune secure. We all are. From whoever, I don't know. But we know the trade's going to get done. We know it's going to get done. Just that the money is made in the waiting. The money is made in the waiting, as uneffing entertaining as that is. And as irritating as that is. Okay, ladies and gentlemen. Ver Hoofty, what the hell is going on here? Well, sir, in crypto, nothing is going on here, but you stay tuned with the market update, and we'll be here for you when something does go on. In between now and then, take a break from Burger King and Starbucks and think about putting some money into this market, into something where, you know, you're going to take control of your life once again. Ladies and gentlemen, that's it for today. We will see you soon.